Hello everyone, this is going to be a slightly different kind of video, a bit more off the cuff, just me talking. If you're wondering why half my body is looking super pale, it's because I've got my script on the right, or not script, just some bullet points. And for the life of me, I can't figure out on Google Chrome how to put it in dark mode, and I've given up and we're just going to have to live with it. We're just going to have to live with half my face looking like, I don't know, a vampire. So we're going to be talking about Pinegrove. They just came out with a live album. Ain't that wonderful? And not just a live album, it comes with a movie as well. I don't know if you'd call it a movie, but they're calling it a movie, so movie. The project is kind of a farewell to their studio that I think they've been forced to move out or something like that because the owner has sold the building. Something like that. Either way, it's a little compilation of their last few albums or so. So that's pretty cool. Now, as you might have gathered, I'm not one to cover new music really, and especially not like live albums. But I really think this one's something special. I really did like it. But before we get into that, I want to rewind a little bit and give some kind of context to Pinegrove. Maybe if you guys haven't heard of them, I want to tell you what they're like, what they're about. The band started in 2010. It was formed with Evan Hall and Zach Levine. I think that's how you say his name, Levine. It might be Levine. I'm going to go with Levine if it's wrong. I'm sorry. They released a bunch of material that would sort of end up kind of compiled together on their album Everything So Far. So they followed up their compilation album with their first full-length release with Cardinal, which is probably their most popular album. It's my favourite album. Very good album. That was around 2016. Anyway, the band would follow Cardinal with Skylight. It's more refined and I absolutely adore it still. It's very close to Cardinal in terms of my favourite albums. And then following Skylight, we got Marigold, which was released about a year ago. Now, I like Marigold, but I definitely prefer Skylight and Cardinal. I feel like some of the songs on Marigold just don't quite have the energy that I got from the tracks on Cardinal and Skylight and stuff like that. It all sounded a little bit too, like, squeaky clean, in my opinion. It feels like I'm definitely in the minority with that opinion, but I don't know, maybe it just wasn't for me. I still like the album a lot, just definitely not as much as those other two albums. And also worth mentioning is the live album or session they did with Audio Tree, which is also extremely popular. And for good reason, this thing is fucking amazing. It's great. I love it to bits, and I'm not the only one who shares that opinion. This is, for a live session that's just like on Spotify, it's super good. It's super good. And that leads me into Amperland, which is one of the reasons I'm excited for it, because it's another live album like the Audio Tree session. But it seems like this is the band's own thing, so they've got a bit more control over it. They're not just turning up to do a quick set of songs before a show or anything. They're doing a little live, I wouldn't even call it a set really, because the album's over an hour long. It's quite a lot of songs. So like I said, this covers a wide view of their discography. But it doesn't have any Cardinal tracks on, and that's because Cardinal already has several live sessions and stuff. Pretty much every song on that album has a really good, like, session or cover somewhere on YouTube or on Spotify. So I'm definitely happy that they didn't do that, because it means just, you know, more songs can get a nice little live studio version, so that's cool. As much as I like tracks like Angelina, Size of the Moon, Old Friends, there's so many versions of these songs on YouTube, I can totally see why they didn't go for them this time. So I think we get 9 tracks from Marigold, I think we get 7 tracks from Everything So Far, and I think it's 6 or 7 songs from Skylight. So a lot of the new album, which I wasn't too fond of, but I was excited to hear how it sounded live, because my issue with the album was that it sounded a bit too much like a studio record, I guess. The Everything So Far tracks are probably my most anticipated ones, because some of those original recordings are just they're a little ropey, they sound a little off.
It's always nice when he says, have some good advice from something in a book he read.
And I feel like they would certainly benefit from some touch-ups and some, you know, the band's evolved quite a bit, so it'd be nice to see what they can bring to these old songs. And as soon as we get to that opening crash of moment, that's when I knew this was going to be something special. The re-recording just sounds so much more alive, like Evan's vocals are just so much stronger. You can hear so much more of those little embellishments and little yelps that were just missing from the album version. And you know, I'm no studio engineer or anything like that, so, you know, I don't really know what I'm talking about in terms of like, oh yeah, this sounds a lot better, but listen to them yourselves, it's night and day in my opinion. And across all these Marigold tracks, like the bass and the drums, they just sound so much more pronounced and clearer. Especially like when the piano turns up, it's a little bit lost in the mix a little bit. Not too bad, but it sounds way better here. Honestly, it sounds so much better.
In the night when I feel your absence, like in the night when I feel your absence, like a dotted line.
Also, you gotta remember, this is a movie, so we get a nice visual shot of the band playing. We get this 360 camera panning around, looking at all the different band members, and they're all like color coordinated in different corners of the room. And it's comical. At some point you pass some of the band members and just surrounded by like guitars and instruments that you know are going to appear later on. Anyway, so all 9 of the Marigold tracks sound great. And like I said, I wasn't huge on Marigold, but now I'm all for it. I mean, it just sounds amazing here. It's pretty much the entire album re-recorded. We're only missing like 3 tracks or so. I guess hearing them in a slightly different context and just in a slightly different recording has just made me fall in love with it. I want to give a particular nod to Alcove, which in the film they like leave the studio and perform it outside just with an acoustic guitar, well 2 acoustic guitars and just harmonies, and it sounds fantastic. This headband keeps like running up my head. I'm just... my hair's gonna get in my eyes, but it's okay. Like, Alcove's quite this lonely sounding song anyway, but being like isolated in this like open field that they're sort of in, it just, it really adds to it. It's really good. As well, Phase. Phase was one of my least favourite tracks on the album, but here it sounds amazing. It's the recording's so different. I think they really tried to like make something new here, and a lot of people like Phase, but it's just not for me. I think again it sounded a bit too commercialized. I want to say, I don't want to be like, oh, you're trying to, oh, I remember when you were an indie band. Brr. I don't want to be like that, but that's just the impression I got listening to that song. But yeah, this live recording, it's stripped down a bit more, and you can hear Evan's vocals so much more strained. It's amazing. And on the live versions, you can just hear the instruments so much clearer. It's great. It really does feel like, if you got a decent set of headphones, it really does sound like you're in the room with them. And as someone who's going to see the band live, and obviously COVID cancelled that, so I'm very appreciative of that. And at certain points, there's just, the songs get so intense and like stripped back, only to explode back out with just a huge like wall of noise. It's amazing. As for the Everything So Far tracks, they all sound incredible here. Like I said, you can really tell how much the band has grown, especially in some of the harmonies. If you listen to some of those early recordings, Evan and Andy, they do sing well together, but I mean, it's nothing compared to this live recording. They just work so much better together. That's a good sentence, I'm leaving that in. There's a certain charm to those early recordings, and I don't want to dismiss them at all. But man, these new versions, they're just like brand new tracks. It's incredible. And once again, we get these incredibly somber, quiet moments with Evan's basically barely like singing. He's just whispering into the mic over like one guitar. And then suddenly the rest of the gang comes in, crashing in with this huge sound. It just sounds amazing. Honestly, it just sounds so good. And this Sunday track, I wasn't a big fan of it on Everything So Far, but here it's one of my favourites easily. This build up around the 1 minute mark, it sounded good on the original track, but here, like, again, it's just like, whoa, it's just been elevated up to 10. It's great. It's kind of like seeing an old movie you were a fan of as a kid and you're now seeing it like upscale to 4K, and it's like, oh my god, whoa. This is what it's like listening to these Everything So Far tracks. They're just so much better than those original recordings. Speaking of which, Metronome, that was one of my favourite tracks off Everything So Far, and it comes up here. And it might be one of my favourites so far, and I remember I used to be a big fan of this acoustic version that's on YouTube somewhere, so that made me kind of appreciate the instrumentals a bit more in this one. Like, Zach's drumming is fucking great on this one. I'm sorry, but I'm going to struggle with the other band members here. I think it's Nick, it's Zach's brother. He sounds great on this as well. He's on the pedal steel, and throughout the whole thing he sounds great, but just hearing that instrument, like, I don't know what it does, but it just like suddenly turns the song just amazing. I love hearing it. And Overthrown might be the star of the show here. That song is incredible. It's jaw-dropping how different it is from the original.
Get out, get on, get overthrown. Get out, get on, get overthrown.
Everything is turned up to 11, and I would have never have expected a track like this to sound this good. I just had no idea these guys could just generate so much noise and power. Like, they're usually quite a subdued band, but here they are just like As for the Skylight re-recordings, again, they sound great as well. Out of these 3 albums, Skylight's definitely my favourite, so I wasn't expecting any improvements because I already think Skylight's pretty just great on its own. And to be fair, the band kind of took every track in quite a bit of a different direction. Skylight, the track itself, is a bit more of an acoustic version. I love at the beginning of the track, you can hear, well, you can see Evan playing the guitar and walking into the room, and that stays in the studio record, and you can hear him, you know, strolling along, and then he meets with the other band, and then they get into the song, and it sounds wonderful. One of the most underwhelming songs on Skylight, in my opinion, was Amulets, and that sounds, again, so much better here. The piano is just way more pronounced here. It's a huge improvement from the studio version, and it leads into Light On, which, again, is one of my other favourites from Skylight, so happy days. Ooh, I'll just punch my desk, casual. When we get to the Skylight songs as well, we get Evan's dad and Zach's dad on the track. So we get Evan's dad on the piano and Zach's dad next to his other son on the pedal steel. So there's 2 pedal steels on this one, so whoa. Ain't that cool? I think it's probably my favourite visual part of the film because you could just see like the fathers and sons all playing music together. It's wonderful. Oh, brought a tear to my eye. Speaking of visuals, like I said, this is a movie. It does have a plot. The plot is fairly simple. The band has a mascot. It's like this little sloth teddy thing, and it's gone missing. It's terrible. And so you see Zach and Evan dressed up as these sort of I don't know what to call them, like old school detectives. And when I say old school, like I don't know, like borderline like Victorian era. Like, I'm not very good with history, guys. I don't know, they look old school, they're riding horses and whatnot. So they turn up to the studio and that just leads to the band's just playing their songs. It's not a very plot heavy thing, it's basically just they turn up to a location, they play a song there, and then they loosely go and look for the sloth, who turns out to be, he's moved to, Costa Rica?
Relocated to La Fortuna, Costa Rica, which is like Brooklyn for young sloths.
And to pursue an acting career. I think they say a slow acting career, something like that.
Pursuing a career in slow cinema.
You fucking donkey!
So yeah, hope he succeeds. But the story's not the most important thing. It's more about the dialogue, it's more about the visuals. It's kind of presented as a silent film. I'm gonna get some of the clips up, see if I can. It says, well, yes, do please come in. Maybe we could sing a tune. Ruminating thus on the last place we saw Lincoln, and see if that might yield any clue, thoughts, or insightful meanderings over the course of the song. I've never heard a human being talk like that in my life, but I'd buy it. I'd buy it for this Pinegrove movie. So anyway, yeah, there's lots of interesting like little props like dotted around in the main bit where they record, like this main room. I think there's a sheep that's like lit up. And like I said, the band's colour coordinated, even like their instruments are coordinated to like the colours of the room and stuff like that. It's just a really cool thing to see. I think in the interview afterwards they said, well, we want to film us live performing the song, and then it just kind of built from there, like, oh, we'll be in, colour coordinated bits, then we can have a story, and it just built up from there. And yeah, it's a fun little thing. When they say movie, yeah, it's not like, it's not like you're going to go in and see fucking Star Wars or something, but like, fun little project. And I'll definitely recommend, if you're going to listen to the album, watch along with the film, because it's good fun, and it's fun to see the members playing their various instruments, and, the expressions on their face, like some of the crazy solos that are going on, some of the just technical skill on performance. It's just wonderful to see. Also want to give a shout out to, I think it's Nick, he's the red guy, and he's putting on like cowboy hats, various sunglasses, a bit where he's naked in the bath and he passes a ukulele. It's just weird and wonderful. It's great. What else to say, really? Great little live album. If you like the Tiny Desk stuff, if you like the Audio Tree stuff, just check this out because it's great. It's probably one of my favourite things I've done. I was about to say the best thing I've done, but early days. I think I'm just excited. Obviously there's no new tracks here, which is a bit of a disappointment, but I mean, we got Marigold last year, so it's not like there's a shortage of songs. It's not like it's been a few years since they've released. There was a Q&A at the end. The Q&A wasn't that great. At the time I was watching it, I was getting really grouchy because it was like 1 AM for me in the UK, and they were interviewed by this person who just wasn't a good interviewer. There's no nice way to put it, to be honest. I think she asked 2 fan questions over the whole thing. But it was more of a chat. I guess it wasn't more an interview. It was more, there was just 3 friends chatting. It was clear that the guys knew each other before this interview, and they were just having a laugh, talking about what they've been doing over lockdown and stuff like that. So, but there was some good questions asked, and it was when the band got a chance to talk, they did say some quite insightful things. So I can't complain too much. But yeah, really good stuff. Oh yeah, also, yeah, so the reason I brought up the interview was I think they mentioned a bit about like future albums. They're kind of slowing down a little bit because various members of the band are, you know, trying to start families or their own projects. Like Nandi, she's got her own completely own solo project, and she's with like a different label. And I noticed at the end it said like, oh, with thanks to her label for letting her come on the thing. So there might be some legality thing with her touring with Pinegrove, so that might be a thing as well. Right now, I'm just gassing now, so I guess I'll wrap it up. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention: the structure of the album's really good as well. So I know I spoke about it in like Marigold, Everything So Far, Skylight, but it's all mixed up, and it all flows really nicely as well. So yeah, good stuff. I had a lot of fun. You'll probably have a lot of fun too watching it, so give it a go. That's all I have to say really. I'll see you next time. Bye.